Hey, what's going on out there, YouTube and Facebook? I'm making this video here to talk about what's going on in Ukraine and the unsettling developments that have happened there. So I should start real quick, just kind of because a lot of people are going to watch this on Facebook. I'm sure don't really understand exactly how everything got started in Ukraine. So I'm going to start by filling you in on that. So the European Union, which is basically like part of the Anglo-American Empire, an extension of the British Empire from back in the day, they went to Ukraine and said, hey, look, we want you to be trade partners with us. We want you to be part of the European Union. And Ukraine kind of hem and hawed, and then they said, all right, I think we'll do it. So what ended up happening is they put a signature on a thing saying that they might get involved in it, but it wasn't like a final decision. And they started talking. The president of Ukraine at the time, or their leader, started talking with the manufacturing heads and company heads in Ukraine, and they started looking at the deal a little bit more closely. And they said, "Yeah, no, this isn't cool at all because we're basically going to have to give up our sovereignty to, the European Union, and this agreement is not going to allow us to trade with Russia anymore, so it violates sort of an agreement that they have with Russia." And if you look at the numbers, you'll find that Ukraine did 80% more trading with Russia than they did with the European Union. So to start trading with the European Union and give up what they got going on with Russia would just basically destroy their economy. So it was a real poor decision, and it was basically the IMF going to Ukraine, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, and basically putting a stranglehold on them and saying, hey, you borrow money from us, you basically now belong to us, so you're going to sign this piece of paper here, or there's going to be a lot of trouble with you. And Ukraine and the manufacturing heads and basically the big wigs of Ukraine said, yeah, no, we're not signing on to you, that ain't happening, all right? So what the IMF came back to Ukraine and said, if you don't sign on with this, we are going to stop loaning you money, which is basically putting an entire financial institution at hostage. They're holding him hostage. So Ukraine says, no way, we're not going to do it. We're not going to sign on with it. We like being a part of Russia. We like what we got going on with Russia here. So the IMF and the World Bank backed United Nations, all right, and the European Union and the CIA basically did what they did in Libya, what they tried to do in Syria, what they did in Egypt, and they got people riled up and funded a sort of revolution. All right. So, and this can be proven because if you go do some research, you'll find out that there was people actually caught in these protests, which eventually evolved into a riot and then into an all-out beyond. It wasn't just a riot; they weren't looting stores. It was a straight-up revolution. All right, and you'll find that there was members of the European Union, like politicians, that were caught down there stirring things up and convincing people to raid police stations and take over government buildings. So this whole revolution thing was totally started and stirred up by the European Union and the CIA, and the same facets that ended up doing this in Syria and the other numerous countries that have had revolts. This is Western backed. Now, you ask yourself, why would the West be so interested in Ukraine? Well, I'm going to let you know because the Cold War has never really ended. The Cold War has been going on. It's been an ongoing process. There's been low points and there's been high points, but the Cold War just keeps going and going and going. Like even in Vietnam, who do you think was supplying the Viet Cong with all their weapons? Where do you think they got all those AK-47s and machine guns and bombs to learn their tactics from? They learned them from Russia. They learned them from Spetsnaz special forces in Russia. Russia was arming them. This was a part of the Cold War, the extension of the fight on communism. They were arming the NBA. So this has been going back and forth for a long time, and it's just been gradually heating up, okay? And Russia uses Ukraine for a lot of resources. Ukraine is basically known as like the breadbasket of that area, okay? They grow a lot of food, they do a lot of manufacturing, and Russia also has a very strategic and very important naval base, okay, in the Ukraine. So if you think that Russia is going to just let the United States go in there and destabilize that country and then take it over and put it under Western control, that you got another thing coming because that is not going to happen. There is no way that Putin is going to allow the European Union and the Anglo-American Empire to take that strategic point. Okay, if you look around the whole map, if you take a map and you lay it out, and you point out where we have our bases and what countries are China and Russia backed and controlled, it's basically like a giant chessboard. Okay, and this was almost like if you could picture in a game of chess the Anglo-American Empire or the New World Order, whatever you want to call it, the European Union, the U.S., the UN. They were taking basically a knight or a bishop, and they were sliding it down the chessboard and putting the king in check. Now, this isn't checkmate, but they're definitely putting the king in check if they get a hold of Ukraine, okay? Now, what's very important to remember is that Russia, okay, is allies with China, North Korea, and Iran. Okay, now what do these countries have in common? What do they all have in common? It's one major thing. They do not have a Federal Reserve central bank that is operated and controlled by the International Monetary Fund. Those countries don't have that, okay? Now, every country that we've gone into and destabilized, like Iraq, like Libya, like we tried to do it in Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, all these countries, they did not have an IMF-backed and controlled central bank. So we went in there, and now they have it. Okay? So this country doesn't have it. So they fall under China and Russia and Iran. They don't have this. Okay? So they don't want it. They don't want to be a part of this Ponzi scheme money thing. You know. Now, what is going on? Okay? Let's take a look at this. John Kerry came out not too long ago and he said, hey, there's going to be grave implications if Russia, you do anything to Ukraine, you need to stay out of there. These people want democracy. They want to be a part of the West, which there's people in there that do because of the propaganda that the West has been throwing out there. And I'm not saying that Russia's any better or the Soviet Union's any better, but the propaganda has filled these people's heads that they're going to live free and have this great thing like we fortunately have over here in America for the time on the base level, which I'm not going to get into and argue about them taking all the rights and everything because they absolutely are. But these people over there down in the South, okay, and I believe the East are very much pro-Russia. Like, there's no way. Like, they hate the West. They hate the United States. You know, they're very pro-Russia. They do a lot of trading with Russia. It's basically Russia's backyard. Now, in the other part of the country where they, like, have a little bit more money, they've kind of been, like, propagandized to believe, like, oh, we want this democracy and we want to be part of the European Union. But what the people don't understand is that when you become a part of that, you're going to give up all your rights, just like they did in the European Union. You know, totally disarmament, like you're going to belong to the IMF, you're going to be totally in debt even more so than you are now, and that's what part of this agreement was all about. So, Kerry comes out and he says, Russia, if you go into Ukraine, which basically is your backyard, and do anything, there's going to be grave implications. So what does Russia do? They send 150,000 special troops to the border along with an armored division, and they send ships to the east and west coast, one of which has made it to the mainstream media, and if you do some digging, you'll find some others, okay, which is a spy ship which has missiles on it. But now look, here's what I'm going to tell you right now. There's a lot of things going on the internet, but there's a ship off the coast of Cuba that has missiles that can nuke America. That is not true. What this ship has on it is SAM missiles, surface-to-air missiles, okay? Their range will not reach America. They're made to shoot down aircraft, and they have guns on the ship made to shoot things that come into the ship. So the ships that they placed in Cuba, which has been on Reuters and Bloomberg and all these other fucking propaganda fucking news things that actually reported this, probably just to scare the fuck out of people, they really are there, but they don't have nuclear missiles like some of these clowns on YouTube are putting out, like, oh my god, the ship's there and it has missiles. Like, yes, it has rockets on it, okay? It's got like the same style rockets that are on the back of these trucks to hold 6 rockets at a time that are made to shoot down airplanes. They're surface-to-air missiles. They're not intercontinental ballistic missiles, okay? Now, Russia has also sent submarines and ships off to our west coast. So they've sent naval fleets and warships, okay, and they put a bunch of troops at the border. Then what did they do? Then they sent in the Spetsnaz Special Forces counterterrorism unit, and they went and grabbed militia groups, which like we have in this country that are militia groups that over there are pro-Russia, like here our militia groups are pro-liberty, and they grabbed those people and they said, hey, we're going to go take the airport, we're going to go take these strategic cities and towns and these strategic inlets and outlets where the highway system is. So they went and took that over and started patrolling it wearing all black with face masks. But if you take a look at the gear they're wearing, it is absolutely 100% Russian gear, okay? Which I'm not even going to get into all the specs and all that kind of stuff because I'd be here for a while explaining how I know this. But if you go do some research and watch the videos and pictures, you'll find out exactly what I'm saying is true. So they went in there, okay? Now, what happens a few days ago, or I should say yesterday, Barack Obama, the puppet in chief, okay, comes out and says, oh, Russia, you better not go in there. If you go in there, there's going to be consequences. So Putin comes out during the interview and basically laughs at the puppet in chief and says, yeah, we know what your consequences are. The same thing that happened in Syria. Absolutely nothing. You're not going to do a damn thing. And I guarantee you that within the next few days, you are going to see tanks rolling across the border. And it might not be on the mainstream news here, because if they show on the mainstream news over here, tanks rolling across the border, then the puppet in chief in the United Nations is going to have absolutely no choice but to do some kind of retaliation by sending troops into the pro-Western part of the state, and you're going to have a serious stalemate. All right, where you're going to have Russia down in the south, and I believe it's the east. Could be the west. I'm pretty sure it's the east and the south. Correct? You know, you guys understand what I'm talking about. And then you're going to have this line drawn, and you're going to have the UN on the other side, which makes for a very, very unstable and very serious situation. Because all it takes is one stray bullet, one soldier to get nervous, or one guy in a tank to fire around that feels like he's about to be attacked, and you have the start of World War III. This is how world wars start, is things like this. This is what starts wars, okay? Because Russia is definitely going to send troops in there and not going to give up Ukraine. Like, I guarantee that. Anyone that studies Russia or studies this kind of stuff will understand. There's no way they can give that up. It's like leaving the king in check. You can't. You've got to take out that piece. You've got to sacrifice a piece to take it out. And if it ends up on the mainstream media, and I guarantee you're going to see these troops roll in on LiveLeak and people sending videos out of there, which the CIA is going to fight furiously to get them offline, okay, then the West is going to have absolutely no choice, like I said, to go in there because they're going to look like a bunch of cowards and bitches, which they already looked like in Syria. They cannot be made to look like that again. Because if they look weak, like they're not going to stand by, like the world used to be afraid of us, if they look weak, countries like China and Iran and North Korea are going to say, hey, these guys aren't as strong as they used to be. They're not as tough as they used to be. You know, in the days of John F. Kennedy and in the days of Eisenhower and other great presidents, and I shouldn't even say great presidents. I should say puppets that stood by their word. Although Eisenhower was good when he left, and so was Kennedy. We would follow through with actions. If we said we were going to bomb you, you got fucking bombed. There was no question about it. The bombers were coming. But in today, it seems like we rely so much on other countries' fear of us that we just expect if we say, hey, don't do that, they're not going to do that, okay? But in this case, that's not going to happen. So these other countries are going to start looking at us like we're extremely weak. Like, hey, man, this might be the time to take down the Anglo-American Empire, okay? This could be it. That's what these other countries are going to start thinking. Putin is testing us. And I hate to say it, but we're failing the test. And even if we try to pass this test, nothing good is going to come out of this, because if we go in there, it's only going to take one small incident to spark a war. And if we don't go in there, it's going to make us look extremely weak. Now, I've already probably spent about 15 minutes on this video, and I know people's attention span is extremely short. So maybe I'll make another video, or maybe I'll just put it like, I'm just going to say this, try to get this under 20 minutes. I'm going to say this in about 5 minutes, all right? The United States is very much like Germany was back in World War II, okay? We have the most technologically advanced military. We are extremely overstretched, like all over the world. We've got bases and men all over the place, and we lack the manufacturing capabilities. It's almost like in this day and age, World War III is going to be flipped, where we are going to be like Nazi Germany. Russia is going to be like what Great Britain was, and China is going to be what the United States was, okay? Because Russia is going to require large amounts of manufacturing to overtake our weapons, even though theirs are very close to ours and some of theirs are better. We still have like crazy Star Wars space technology shit that we haven't even rolled out yet, which I should probably make a video on someday. Okay, so, and they're gonna require manufacturing. So in World War II, what would happen was we were sending supply lines across the Atlantic because we would manufacture all these weapons for Europe to fight Germany with. Okay, we would send them guns and tanks and fighter jets and make parts for all their stuff. And China is going to end up doing that for Russia. Okay, they're going to be their mass manufacturing thing. And unfortunately, in this country, we don't manufacture shit anymore. So there's no way that we can out-manufacture the enemy. And that is how we defeated Germany in World War II. If you look into it, Germany had this crazy high-tech stuff. They already had a stealth fighter that they were working on. They built the world's first stealth fighter. If you don't believe me, Google it. They had the world's most advanced tank. They had the world's most advanced weapons. They had rockets. They had jets. They had all kinds of crazy shit. But they didn't have a lot of them. Just like today, like we have the F-22 Raptor, which is a nasty jet, don't get me wrong. But we don't have a whole lot of them. And then if you take a look at what Russia has, the Su-35 or the Su-37, they've got a lot of those. And those are just as nasty as the Raptor. And there's rumors that the Su-37 has stealth technologies that is a little bit beyond us. And we think, well, we have the stealth, so we can just go in there and bomb things. But if you find out, they have the capability to shoot down stealth, which is something that the government and the military will not admit at all, but it's true, okay? Just type in Google search, Iran shoots down stealth drone. Iran was given technology from Russia to test out because they knew that the United States was flying these stealth drones over Iran. And they wanted to find out if they could shoot one of them down. So they gave them a type of technology that allows them to pick up the signature of the radar when it's reflected off of the stealth and absorbed by the special material that is sprayed and applied to the outside of the stealth. It targets that and it shoots it down. Okay, so Iran, using Russian technology, was able to shoot down a stealth. So a lot of this badass technology that we have, that we've been out flaunting around and like flexing our muscles to the world, these other countries have developed ways to take it down. Which is, I think, why we don't really stand by what we say now when we tell a country, hey, you better not do this, because we're now screwing around with the other big kid on the block. You know, like we're the big tough kid on the block, and this other kid was kind of tough. He worked out, but the last 30 years he's been pumping iron, man. He's been training. He's tough now. And he's like, oh yeah, well, I'm just as big and I'm just as tough as you are. And the guys that I got standing behind me, China, Iran, and North Korea, well, North Korea is a crazy son of a bitch, and China's got a shit ton of friends, man, and they can pump a lot of iron too. And I'm going to knock you the hell out if you even try and fuck with my friend over here, Ukraine. And that's exactly what is going on. So we're in a time right now where this country really needs to, people need to start training. They've got to start getting in shape. You've got to start getting somewhat proficient with weapons or firearms, because if we're not going to take down our government to keep us out of wars like this, I guarantee you dollar for dollar that the next world war is going to be fought on this soil. We are going to have enemy troops on this soil here, and you're going to have to defend your homeland, whether it's to stop the government from pulling this kind of shit or to stop an invading force. And remember what Germany did in World War II, okay? They were being attacked and invaded, yet they still went along with grabbing people that didn't agree with the government and rounding them up and putting them in camps along with the Jews and the gypsies and the gays and anyone else that they just kind of thought was not cool. You know, the same kind of thing I wouldn't doubt happen here, because they are going to be scared shitless that when the commies fucking land, that patriots that are confused, that don't like the government, might side with helping this invading force take down the government, thinking that it's not going to be as bad as the government that we have, which isn't really true. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's going to be a lot of confusion and a lot of crazy shit going down. So, you know, you're going to have to stay vigilant. You're going to have to do your research. You're going to have to train. You're going to have to get ready. You're going to have to be prepared because a lot of shit's going down. So watch constantly. Keep an eye on what's going on. Don't believe what the mainstream media is telling you because the shit is being thrown at the fan and it's about to hit the blades. So thanks for watching all my videos. Thanks to all my subscribers and thanks to all my friends on Facebook who are actually interested in this and pay attention to what I say. I don't have all the answers. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but by any means at all. But I definitely try to keep up on what's going on and inform people. So I'm going to leave this video with leave a lot of